write the lyrics to change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same. It's the verse effect. Is this the verse effect? It's the verse effect. It's the verse effect. It's the verse effect. I write the lyrics to change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same.
Welcome to The Verse Effect, the podcast where we break down and explore the lyrics that shaped hip-hop and rap history. I'm Camille.
And I'm Roderick.
Today's episode focuses on Cypress Hill's explosive debut single, How I Could Just Kill a Man, a raw and unapologetic anthem that gave voice to street survival and social frustration in early 90s LA. Before we begin, please note, the song contains explicit lyrics and disturbing themes, including violence and the realities of life in marginalized communities. Our discussion will reflect that. Listener discretion is advised.
It's a landmark track, no question, and one that pushed boundaries both musically and culturally. Let's get into it. All right, that hook. Here is something you can't understand. How I could just kill a man. I mean, it's like a punch to the gut every time. It's not just a catchy line, it's almost like a warning and a confession rolled into one. When I first heard it, I remember thinking, this isn't about bragging, it's about survival. It's about that pressure cooker feeling, you know? Like you're living in a world where violence isn't a choice, it's the air you breathe.
Absolutely, Roderick. And the repetition, over and over like a mantra, really drives home the psychological weight. It's not just shock value, it's almost existential, like, you don't get it. You can't get it unless you've lived it. And, in the early 90s, especially in places like South Central LA, gang violence and police brutality were just everywhere. This line is both a threat and a cry for empathy. It's saying, don't judge me if you've never had to make these choices.
Yeah, and it's the emotional anchor of the whole song. It's haunting, it's confrontational, and it's honest. I mean, I grew up in Oakland, and I remember those days, folks just trying to make it through, and sometimes the only way to survive was to be harder than the world around you. Cypress Hill captured that perfectly. It's not about wanting to hurt someone. It's about being pushed to the edge by everything around you. Poverty, chaos, just life.
And it's so important to remember, too, that this wasn't just a West Coast thing. These pressures were, and still are, felt in urban communities all over the country. The line is provocative, but it's also a demand for understanding. It's like, if you've never been here, don't pretend you know what it's like. Now let's talk about that line. Kid from the street getting paid for my vocals. There's something almost hopeful in that, right? Be Real saying, yeah, I came from this, but I'm using my voice, my art to get out. It's a glimmer of transformation in the middle of all that darkness.
And it's not just about money either. It's about autonomy. Cypress Hill didn't wait for anyone to give them permission. They didn't need mainstream approval. Their art was for their community, by their community. And being one of the first Latin American hip-hop acts to really break through, that's huge. They were representing for a whole group of people who hadn't seen themselves in the spotlight before.
Exactly. It's a declaration. We're self-made. And it's not just about escaping the street, it's about bringing the street with you, telling those stories, making sure they're heard. That's power. That's identity. And it's a reminder that creativity can be a way out, even when it feels like there aren't any options.
And it's funny. Sometimes people hear these songs and think it's all about glorifying violence, but there's always that undercurrent of, I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to make something better. That's what makes Cypress Hill's legacy so strong. They're the underdogs who made it, and they never forgot where they came from. So this next lyric, how do you know where I'm at when you haven't been where I've been? That's a challenge, right? It's like, don't judge me if you haven't walked in my shoes. I feel like that's aimed at everybody. Critics, cops, politicians, even folks in the suburbs who think they know what's best for the hood.
It's a rejection of that outside moralizing for sure. And it's a demand for perspective. I mean, so many young people in the inner city felt abandoned, criminalized, just written off by the rest of society. This lyric calls out the hypocrisy of a system that condemns them without ever trying to understand their reality.
Yeah, and it's not just anger. It's philosophical, almost. Like, you can't know me if you haven't lived my life. There's a dual theme here. Alienation and resistance. It's accusatory, but it's also a way of saying, I'm still here, I'm not going anywhere.
And that's what makes it resonate so deeply. It's not just about Cypress Hill, it's about every kid who's ever felt invisible or misunderstood. It's a call to see the humanity behind the headlines, behind the stereotypes. So let's get into this line. Would you call the one time and play the role model? For folks who don't know, one time is slang for police. This lyric is so loaded. It's critiquing the idea that people in dangerous neighborhoods should just trust the system, call the cops, and everything will be fine. But that's not reality for a lot of folks.
Yeah, and especially back then, early 90s, LAPD was notorious for misconduct, racism, excessive force. Rodney King, the LA riots, all that. The system wasn't just broken, it was actively hostile. So Cypress Hill's not saying, go out and be a vigilante, but more like, what would you do if you couldn't trust the people who are supposed to protect you?
Exactly. It's a brutal kind of logic, but it's survival logic. When the institutions fail you, you have to protect yourself. And that's not about promoting violence, it's about illustrating what happens when people are left with no good options. It's a critique, but it's also a reality check for anyone who thinks the answer is as simple as just call the police.
And it's still relevant, honestly. That mistrust of the system, that feeling of being let down by the people in power, it hasn't gone away. Cypress Hill just put it out there, raw and unfiltered. Now this one, I'm out here risking my dome just for a bucket or a fast ducket. Man, that's as real as it gets. It's saying, I'm risking my life for almost nothing. A bucket's just a cheap car, a ducat's $1. When you're broke, when you feel invisible, even the smallest thing can seem worth the risk.
It's heartbreaking, honestly. Poverty skews your sense of what's worth it. The risk-reward logic gets all twisted. People aren't out here because they don't value life. It's because they don't see any other options. That's a social critique buried in street realism. And the way Be Real delivers it, with that nasal, tension-filled flow, you can hear the vulnerability and the resignation at the same time.
Yeah, it's not just about the act, it's about the circumstances that make the act possible. It's a reminder that these stories aren't just entertainment. They're reflections of real lives, real struggles. And Cypress Hill never shied away from that. They put it all out there, even when it was uncomfortable.
And that's what makes the song so powerful. It's not just about violence, it's about the desperation that leads to it. It's about being honest even when the truth is ugly. So, looking at the bigger picture, How I Could Just Kill a Man was a turning point for hip-hop in the early 90s. It was raw, unfiltered, and it spoke for the streets in a way that hadn't really been done before. Cypress Hill gave voice to communities caught in cycles of violence and poverty, but they did it with a kind of stylized aggression that was about truth, not just shock.
Yeah, and the title alone, man, it challenged what was acceptable in rap. It opened the door for other artists to blend their own cultural backgrounds with universal street stories. Cypress Hill made it okay to be specific, to be honest, to be ferocious and thoughtful at the same time. And for Chicano culture, for hardcore hip-hop, it's still a landmark track. Unforgettable, honestly.
It's one of those songs that doesn't just belong to its era. It keeps echoing because the issues it talks about, poverty, violence, mistrust of the system, they're still with us. And the way Cypress Hill told their truth, that's what makes it endure.
Couldn't have said it better. All right, Camille, I think that's a good place to wrap for today. Thanks for breaking it down with me, as always.
Thank you, Roderick. Always a pleasure. And thanks to everyone listening. Keep those questions and thoughts coming. We'll be back soon with another track that changed the game.
Take care, y'all. See you next time on The Verse Effect.
It's the verse effect, it's the verse effect. I write the lyrics that change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same. Nothing's ever gonna be the same. I write the lyrics that change the game. Nothing's ever gonna be the same. Nothing's ever gonna be the same.